Ian.
Hello, Dave.
Hello, Ian, and we are honored to have a guest today on the podcast.
Hello.
I'd like to introduce Victoria Scott, incredible freelance writer, amazing photographer, van enthusiast, and I'm going to say automotive culture icon.
Oh, God. Well, now everybody listening is going to be disappointed. So I appreciate that because, yeah, I'm not living up to that standard. But thank you. I'm excited to be on. I appreciate it.
I think self-deprecation is a pretty key fundamental aspect to have as an automotive journalist, right? We're barely automotive journalists, and we have plenty of it. So I'd like to see if that shifts. As someone becomes greater, as you have your upward trajectory, have you found self-deprecation dropping off, or how are you feeling? How are you doing?
Oh, gosh. Self-deprecation is still definitely there. I think it's an important trait. Self-hatred is kind of lesser than it used to be. So I think that's good.
Yes.
I think the thing that's cool is I get to work at a lot of different outlets, and I have a bunch of different editors, and I'm constantly surrounded by the just experts of this industry. So I am just cripplingly fully aware, not in a self-deprecating way, just at all times of how little I know. Which is, I think, the best way to look at it. If I can remember that I work with people who've been in this industry since I was born, then maybe at least I can stay humble. And while also not hating myself. That's the goal.
That's awesome. Yeah, right on.
Well, and I think all areas of journalism are like this, but it seems pretty clear that car journalism is especially like this, where there's always going to be somebody who knows more about a thing than any other person, right? There's going to be someone writing, like Jason Torchinsky writing articles on Jalopnik about the sub years of Beetle tail lights. And you're not gonna compete with that, but
right.
You can write about
my sole goal is to become, at some point through my life, and I'm talking over the span of the next 30 years, but the only thing I want to be the unquestioned authority on is the English language expert for the Soviet Energia Bureau. I feel like I'm never going to know as much as there is to know, but maybe I can learn some basic Russian translation and then become a first primary source.
So I want to dig into this because I think that for anybody who is familiar with you already and your body of work, right? I think
which I am sorry if you are.
I think that there's been a few kind of vectors to getting to know Victoria Scott. Right? Becoming familiar with Victoria Scott's work. So we became familiar with you during the initial pandemic lockdowns when you started that Twitter thread that was I miss car shows. Fuck it. Here's a let's do an online Twitter thread car show. Show me what you got. Here's my Aero deck, right?
Yes.
I honestly can't tell you how bad of a place I was in mentally when that came into my life and how much I needed it at that point in time, those little bright spots that people were making an effort to provide for others during an especially difficult time. I work in the healthcare industry. I'm an IT guy in healthcare, and it's obviously crazy rough, right? And that was a bright light, and we're very thankful. That was our trajectory into becoming familiar with your work. Another possible trajectory is if you happen to be a Soviet space enthusiast, right? Your quest to get a massive scale model of the Soviet space shuttle. Tell folks about that, because that is amazing and I love it so much.
Thanks. That was surreal. It's sitting in a storage unit back in Houston right now. So I'm on this road trip, which is another vector that you might use to hear about me if you've, seen some of my stuff more recently, and I can get into that later. But I still have it. Basically, oh God, I was on Twitter one day, and my friend Sid, who runs One Hell of a Town, which is an art shop I love. Yes,
there we go.
Exactly.
Yep, we love Sid. She's been on the show.
We can say friend of the show.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, friend of mine, amazing person. But they tagged me in a post that was like somebody had found. Yeah, it wasn't a full size one, but they had found an eBay listing in Houston of a 9-foot 2-inch tall replica of the Energia Buran. It appeared to be sitting in some sort of like storage closet, and I was just intrigued. I was just like, if it had been a space shuttle, I wouldn't have been intrigued, because the space shuttle is not foreign and strange and just kind of this weird artifact of a bygone era that regardless of whether or not you're romantic for it, and I'm not really. I know that there's running jokes that, I like Soviet stuff too much. I don't have any, I didn't live through that era. I know that the realities of the Soviet Union were miserable generally in practice. But at the same time, it's just like you have this weird Galapagos of product development. And this is why I have an interest in Soviet cars and watches or whatever. And the Buran is just like that. The Buran is the American shuttle developed in a vastly different set of circumstances for similar purposes with a completely different outcome. And so it's fascinating to me. So anyway, there's a 9-foot tall model of it on eBay, and I went over and checked it out, and then I bought it the next morning. Or actually, no, the same night. I bought it the same night, and then I picked it up like 2 days later.
Hell yes.
It's 1/24th scale, so it's like 8 feet 3 inches without the base. Okay. And it is like an exact 1/24th scale model of the real thing.
That is amazing.
Cool.
Oh, full disclosure, maybe depending on when the show runs, there's an article I've been working on with Matt Hardigree of Apex One, filmmaker mostly now, but he still does his own. He's got his own site for interesting stories and car reviews and stuff. And so I have a story that should be coming out with him at some point in the near future. There was a lot of research involved, so that's why I'm like, I already started down this path, and I'm like, it's a low bar to clear, probably, because not very many Americans seem to know a lot about the history of failed Soviet space projects. So I think maybe I can do it. I already have a head start on trying to learn everything about it possible. But yeah, that's my long-winded explanation. Sorry.
I didn't know much about the Russian space program, so watching your dialogue with Sid as an educational way into it was a fantastic ingress to it. And I follow that Instagram account, Northern Friend, that just tours abandoned Russian sites and crazy. Yeah, right. So that kind of stuff's always been a fascination. That quantity of infrastructure failing and just being left is just nuts. It's almost like a multiverse version of the American space shuttle. Somebody moved a chair and now you have an abandoned space shuttle in a hangar somewhere, right? Yeah.
The greatest shame of the whole thing is that the Buran was technically superior, which is another thing, a fun thing I've learned about it is the shuttle had this real complicated booster system where propellant was fed into the body of the orbiter itself, which takes up a lot of space, it adds a lot of complexity, it adds more failure points. The Buran they hooked it onto a big rocket, and the rocket took off, and then it steered in space with little orbiter nozzles. But it had way more payload. It was way simpler. It was cheaper to reuse. All of these things about it that were great. And then they were just well, we don't have any money, so they let them sit in a garage. Basically, it's literally a barn find at this point.
It's the Betamax of space programs. That's too bad. Technically superior. Nobody had a chance to use it. That's too bad. But yeah, so it
is interesting too, how good the Soviets were at engineering simplicity stuff. There's the saw about the NASA spending so much money to get the pen to work in space.
That one wasn't quite true though.
Right.
That story, I definitely see where you're coming from, but I just have to point out that story isn't true, and I can't slander NASA at the same time. I still like NASA. I will only praise the Buran in comparison to its arch rival. I cannot actually condemn the shuttle because it was still awesome.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, and it actually flew.
Yes, it did.
Right on. So, in addition to now being a Russian space podcast,
comrades, let's move on to another topic.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the other vector that people became familiar with for would be the Toyota Hiace, in which you're currently in the middle of a road trip ish?
Yeah, no, it's definitely still a road trip. It just hasn't. It's been focused on sort of waiting recently, but I'm still not home. Like currently, I'm staying in a guest bedroom at my friend's house in Los Angeles, where I've been stuck pretty much for a month.
But we won't say stranded because that's not.
No, because I see the thing about this trip is okay. Just for background overview, I left from Houston, Texas, about 2 months ago. Actually, a little over 2 months ago now. And set out west, I guess, with kind of just a desire to explore. I had a couple events I wanted to make, and just take my van and see nature. I had been really strict about lockdown for the past year. I worked a software job. I didn't really have a lot of chances to get out and do a whole lot of things. So I was like, okay, I'm vaccinated. I want to go see my friends. I want to go drive up mountains, and I want to write about it. And I was doing work already with the Drive, and they're the ones who told me like, hey, we'll run these. We'd like to help you with these. So they've been publishing these stories about this trip in a series called The Vans Continental Express. And so as a result of that, though, because the trip is a story, because the Drive has been helping me with this, there's never really stranded. They got me an emergency beacon so that if I really get, have a breakdown somewhere outside a cell signal or whatever, I can still get help. There's very little mortal danger, intentionally, because I think it's a better story if I'm just exploring ideas, and car culture in general, rather than like, I almost died, here's what it's like. And I still see stories where I'm like, I almost died, here's what it's like. But as a result, like, I could have gone home. I could have flown home as soon as the van broke, and I could have said, I'm done, I'll come back later. And I have chosen not to, because I think that part of the adventure is going through misfortune.
Yeah.
And it's not even been that misfortunate. I haven't been homeless or anything. I've got friends to let me stay with them. It's been overall not bad. It's not a road trip right now, but
it's a journey.
Fled from it. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic. So, yeah, no, we've been following the story. It's amazing. It's some of my favorite like automotive like centric writing that I've ever come across. It's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, yeah. We'd like to talk about some of the articles specifically, but Ian, did you want to kind of start with like the cars as stabilizing forces?
Yeah. So I think the thing that struck me most about your story, just kind of the whole arc of it so far, was the idea of like, we're all in this really kind of tumultuous time. And you personally are in a very tumultuous time in your life. There's been a lot of change in your life. And the idea that like a car in itself as a stabilizing force in your life, as like the thing that you can rely on and count on, even when it does break down, like it's still your relationship with that car is like a constant with everything else changing around you. But then also like cars more broadly, like, your community, the community that you've built through your love of cars is kind of like sustaining you as you like are going on this literal journey. So that was what I loved about the story, is that idea is just through the whole thing of it, in ways really big and smaller, like staying in someone's house.
Yeah. No, I mean, the story I wrote that published today was part 11, and that was kind of about nailing down the sense of home that my van has given me, even just like the ability, I bought it with cash back in March. I put 14,000 miles on it since then. And I shouldn't say it. I have been decidedly making it an effort to call it her.
Marsha.
Her name is Marsha. And at this point, like the number of things that I've been through on this trip with that van, it truly, like, she's got to be sentient. I'm convinced. It is beyond just normal coincidence. She knows what's going on, and she's like, this might seem annoying, but I'm going to do this right now. So you'll figure out how to deal with it.
Okay. Okay.
I do like the kind of mischievous personality that Marcia seems to have too. She seems to be almost like a toddler, like testing limits a little bit.
I think the thing with the van that makes it so ideal for this trip is like she is capable enough as a vehicle to handle 14,000 miles of driving around America and in a freeway system vastly faster than she was ever designed for, without complaint. She has AC that works. She's got a bed. She's super comfortable. She's very habitable. But I think that the ways that she has broken so far, which to date have been, I had an alternator die on me, which is a totally normal thing. Especially, I had just driven like 200 miles of dirt roads in the 3 days prior. So the van is as old as I am. I just turned 26. Like, that's to be expected.
Right.
So I got that fixed, made it out to my event. It was no mortal threat to my trip. This time when she broke, it was, partly my fault. I was driving down a mountain I shouldn't have gone up. And I found this mountain trail and it looked really fascinating. And I knew the view at the top would be probably pretty good. So I drove up it and I was like, the whole time on the way up, I was like, I shouldn't be doing this, but I kept going. I don't know. You just end up like target locked on destinations that you want to get to when you're road tripping. So I got up there, and then the next morning when I came down, I was doing really well until there was just a rock that I straddled on the front, slammed the brakes, and just smacked one of the rear trailing arm brackets on the rock, lifted the rear end of the van up, and then about 10 feet later, the bracket just snapped and the trailing arm fell into the dirt. So that was my fault. Like, I can't be mad at Marcia for it. And she broke 100 miles exactly from the repair shop. By the time I got her to the nearest gas station, it worked out to be literally 100 miles in the dot, which is exactly as far as AAA will take you.
Yeah.
And now I was deposited in LA, a place where I probably know more people than anywhere else on Earth, and I can actually survive. So, even for a situation where I was completely at fault and she would have been correct to just dump my ass off the side of the mountain, she still got me to a point where I can continue taking this trip, at some point in the near future. So, definitely mischievous, but not harmful. Go ahead. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's why I use the word mischievous and not, malevolent.
Yeah.
Hey, have you ever read I Kill Giants? I don't know.
No, I haven't.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to say anything, but I like, you might like it and might think about Marcia. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's great. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I think that like this, like the sentience, like these aspects of automotive ownership are so fascinating to me because like all of these emotions that we attach to our vehicles are so legitimate, right? Like I recently lost my beautiful Saab Viggen a little bit ago due to probably my own fault going too hard at the track with this idiot in the passenger seat, and it spun a rod bearing. And we also took advantage of AAA to tow.
AAA will pick you up at the racetrack.
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
Nice.
Learn that. Yeah.
No questions asked.
Yeah, but grief is absolutely a legitimate part of the automotive ownership experience. Like all of these things that like the vehicles facilitate in us themselves, but then also the experiences that they help us get to, right? Like it's so key. And that's been one thing that I've really liked about reading your articles in this, in the journey, is that like the emotions you have, emotion centric to the vehicle is, as one part of it, but then as a conduit, the vehicle being the conduit to get to other things is really a beautiful experience and so beautifully articulated.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, the story that started my career actually was I wrote a piece when I was first trying to figure out what my gender identity was or what I wanted to call it publicly and where I was going to land with that. And I wrote about like the connection that I had with my car, and that was it gave me the first context I'd ever had to evaluate myself from a different perspective. I evaluated myself as a person through my car and the decisions I had made with it and the trips I had taken. And it wasn't, a perfect psychological analysis, but as far as like a literary one, as far as something that, could help kind of show people what made me tick, I thought that my experience with that car was extremely accurate. So I think like I always wanted to do like a road trip story that was more about the trip and more about finding that one, right vehicle for it. I was just excited that, the Drive would let me run it, because it's not exactly like, I think intentionally, like you've mentioned, you haven't read a lot of these, and I think it's partly because like it's not really traditional automotive writing.
Right.
And so, I'm psyched to get to do it. And, I've definitely read other great road trip stories in the past, but I think that they weren't presented from an automotive lens. And I think that does add another facet to it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Yeah. No, like the journey that you're going through, and like the seeing your voice represented in automotive media is like, it's not just important to the folks that you're representing and to people that identify with you, but it's also an opportunity for everyone else in car culture to be empathetic to voices that are not their own, right? And so seeing these experiences and feel like having the opportunity to see things through your eyes as you're going through this journey is just, it's made a great impact on me, and I really appreciate it. It's really great. Yeah. No, we can't say enough.
You can't make me cry on the podcast. It's against the rules.
You would be the third person to cry on the show. So
well, yeah, you can't make me. That's just not fair.
No, but
thank you very much.
It's no problem. So one thing that we try to bring to the automotive culture with our podcast is taking in like all of this kind of full circle of emotion and like vulnerability and culture and representation, because ultimately Ian and I are just like two cis white dudes, right? And so we need these voices because they make culture better, they make car culture better, and they make us better as people.
Well, and I think too, the other thing is just like, I think that to discredit yourself, right? Don't discredit yourself, I guess, for any matter of identity. That's kind of the angle I'm taking it from. The only reason that I mention my identity in the stories that I write is because, yes, for one, nobody's really gotten a chance to tell them all that much. We had a culture sort of built up around storytelling and just like zines and queer literature and stuff that all got wiped out with the 80s. And I think that our generation is going to be kind of one of the first to really build that in a strong way where we can actually perpetuate it to future generations, because it definitely took a beating after that. So part of me is like, yes, I want to talk about it just because in that sense, I think rebuilding that body of literature, just letting teenagers read this and be like, oh, a lot of things in my life make more sense now, right, would be something that would have been super helpful to me as a kid. But the other thing too is just like, one of the things that I do when I finish a story that I really like, where I have involved my identity in a deep way, is I send it to people who don't share my identity at all before I publish it. I want everybody from every background to read it and kind of see at least some common element of the human experience to it. And that's why I think like that, I mention it because I think that the things that I've gone through are more similar to other people's than they realize. And I want to share that vulnerability in a way that makes people feel okay for having it in themselves. So in that regard, like who I am telling the story, I don't think matters. I think honesty and, trying to really be introspective about very deep parts of yourself are like the key elements. And I truly think that like anyone who wants to write a story like this probably could. And that's why I like when I hear people say they want to go on trips or start writing because of what they've seen. It's like, good, you should. You can. Anyone can do this kind of thing. You just need to be honest about yourself. So that's my overview on it. Sorry.
No, yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and again, like the car and road trip as a like literary framing device is so nice because again, it's like a literal journey. It's like not the most subtle metaphor, but it's very effective because everyone has done it, right? Everyone has gone on a literal and metaphorical journey, and it's just a really handy way to like tie your life experience to somebody else's life experience, and it's a common, it's a meeting point, right? you can get from A to B, even though A and B don't seem like they should meet up at all, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing too is just like car culture is perfect for that.
Right.
I've met so many different people with so many different backgrounds through car culture, and like most of them, I obviously had bad experiences, but on the whole, like I try to tell people this: like people are nice, and if you like cars, they will talk to you about them.
Right.
So I've had super good luck with that.
Yeah, it's not without its shitty elements, just like culture at large. But yeah, right. On the whole, right. And there's people that are actively trying to make it better. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No.
Well, that's sort of another thing that we talked. We usually ask our guests on the show is like, if you had to deliver the State of the Union for car culture, and I think as the esteemed representative from Weird Car Twitteristan, you're probably well suited, maybe really well suited to give a State of the Union of car culture in the year 2021.
Shoot, I should have. I knew I should have opted for teleprompters in this room. My fellow Americans. No, I think that overall you're seeing the same cultural struggles. I think that automotive culture, at least in the U.S., is a microcosm of broader culture because, regardless of how many women or trans people or gay people have been represented in positions of power or media or whatever in the past, they've always been there. And so I think now what you're starting to see is like the same trends as in broader culture, a little bit delayed, but overall still positive. It's, there are more people speaking up about their identities and how it intersects with their enjoyment. There are more people who will not tolerate the sexist bullshit that permeates a lot of car meets. There are friendly environments to go and show off cars that were once unloved, like Radwood and Oblivion, and there's a couple other car shows like that. So there's very much a broadening of horizons in terms of what makes a car enthusiast, the kind of people that are allowed to participate. Like, I don't know if I'd be in this situation 10 years ago. I kind of doubt I would. So I think on the whole, that's good. I think the only concern I have is also a reflection of broader culture, which is that everything is too goddamn expensive. And I mean that in a literal sense. Like, rent is insane.
Rent is too damn high. Yeah.
Seriously, like, basic living supplies, groceries, like phone bill, like just literally everything except for like disposable consumer electronics are just through the roof. And that applies to cars. And at a certain point, no one wants a 2001 Hyundai Accent to be their first project car. It's just not exciting, And I think that that's like the biggest thing is even 5 years ago when I bought my Supra, which was my first car, I had a 88 Turbo Mark III Targa manual transmission. So it was like ideal. And I was like, this is cool as hell. It hyped me on the hobby. It got me hooked. And I have that car to thank for pretty much all of my future involvement in the hobby. But like if I had gotten, a base model 04 Civic, I don't think I would have been quite as excited about it. It's really hard to maintain that kind of enthusiasm for kind of what you're seeing as the leftovers. And we're getting to a point very rapidly where the classic car pricing has now swept forward through the 90s. And used car pricing, because used cars are usable longer than ever, is like the mid-thousands. We have about 5 years left of affordable stuff. And then beyond that, they're just going to collide, and it's just going to become this mess of just like, if you buy something, it's going to be just the most undesirable, broken piece of shit, which is not a fun way to get involved. And it's hard for me to help friends pick out cars for an affordable, can I try this hobby out some? And I think that's the biggest issue with it right now. And I don't know how to fix that. I think fixing the economy in general is probably how it gets fixed. I don't think it's something that car culture itself can address. I think it's just too broad of a societal problem. But yeah, that's my State of the Union, I guess. Overall, good. Just concerns for the future, which I think is kind of how I feel about the world currently.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fair. The state of our union is strongish.
I wouldn't say strongish. I would say it's not. I would say it's not currently on fire, but it's still kind of smoldering a little bit.
I like it. Well, so another, that's a big thing on our show is talking about how car culture and larger culture, both reflect each other and affect each other and all that. And you had another story out recently that we want to talk about because it's your review of the Dodge Viper.
Oh yeah, that came out today.
Yeah, and
Victoria, we got to get into this.
Yeah, because
this is one of my favorite things ever that you wrote. Yeah.
So
thank you.
Us talking about masculinity on this show has been kind of a long running thing.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yes.
And so I really, really liked the framing that you used to review this 25-year-old car. Explain kind of the conceit of the article, and then we'll kind of jump off from there.
Okay, yeah. So I got this Viper unexpectedly. So normally when I do these classic car reviews, and they're a whole series not really a series. It's just I've done a bunch of them for the drive, and I would like to keep doing a bunch of them.
Yeah.
At some point,
everyone wants you to keep doing.
Thank you. But so I get to drive a bunch of really cool stuff that I am just continually astounded that I'm like, I get to drive this today? Okay, cool. So I've done I did a Renault 5 Turbo. I did the Honda Lady 1 concept car. I did a 1 of 12 Barris Bugazzi, 06 Pontiac GTO, LS2, just the cars of of my generation's dreams for the most part, and maybe a little bit of Gen X's. But just sort of revisiting them and sort of putting them in their cultural context with the benefit of hindsight, seeing how they stacked up against other cars of the era. And, to an extent, I'll talk about my impression of them, how they handled, how I thought how they had dated and how they hadn't in the intervening years. So for this car, I got this Viper. My van broke. I went to Radwood. I didn't have a car. My friend two-road it. And he was like, hey, Victoria, do you want to drive a Viper to Radwood? Because I don't have a vehicle admission, but you do. And I was like, hell yes. So
Who says no to that?
No, I mean, not
right?
me. I'll tell you that much. So he pulls up the next morning in a 94 Dodge Viper RT10. I took it to Radwood, and it was, of course, a hit. I mean, everybody loves an old Viper. Apparently that car has been to every Bay Area Radwood, because it's on Turo and it's $150 a day. And who doesn't say yes to that? Who's there for Radwood?
Right?
Exactly. So I got this car through that experience. So because it was so sudden and random, and I just didn't know it was coming until the day of, and then I was like, I want to tell a story about this. Can I drive it, please? Some more. I had no preconceived notions except for solely what the culture around me had given me. There was no spec sheet review. There was no going back and checking my notes or looking at what Dodge's initial intent was. I literally just was like, I watched a ton of TV shows about this as a kid. I drove a lot of video games. That's all I have going in. And all of those things tell me this car will kill you. This car hates you. It is rudimentary, and it is masculine. And that's, I think, what pretty much everybody thinks about them. I certainly did going into it. And then when I finished driving it, I was like, well, I get why everybody says that, but I still kind of liked it, which is a little confusing for who I am. I mean, I wouldn't say I reject masculinity, but for me personally, as a practice, it wasn't working. So for me to take a look at basically the most masculine car and say, I love this, was something that I could have just said I love this and been like, yeah, it's stupid. That's why I love it. Right. But I wanted to kind of dig to the crux of what makes it masculine and what makes it so imposing and why I would still enjoy it. I thought that was more interesting than just this is a 94 Viper, it's crazy, because that article's been written a bunch. I mean, the car is inherently insane.
Yeah. I think the thing that I was thinking about when I was reading it was it's kind of a fun inversion of all the kind of derogatory, kind of vaguely shitty things that were said about the Miata when it was new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Of if you don't enjoy the thing that matches you, then that means something about you, right? Instead of just it's a fun thing.
Yeah.
Being able to enjoy things that don't map to you, it should be allowed.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that's how you have to like. There's a I think for like trans women in general, there's this like huge urge to just be like, oh, I have to prove this to my doctors, to my parents, whatever. I can't, I have to be super femme, which means I have to stop liking the things I like. And luckily I never fell into that. And my whole goal in life is to tell literally all of my friends, like, hey, don't do this. Cars are super fucking cool. Like whatever you enjoy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's the same way for,
Oh God, yeah.
A teenage boy out there who's like, I can't be seen driving a Miata because my friends will think I'm gay. Like, that's insane.
No, Miatas are, I feel like just at the base of it, the Miata drives so well that people could think whatever they wanted about me and I'd still drive one.
Right.
If I had the money for an ND, I'd be like, you can think that I like embezzled money from the government because I'm driving a Miata, and I would still be like, I don't care. I love this car. It's worth the criticism.
Right.
There is a very nice, like, what is the first one that we got? Was it the NA here? NA Miata, like 3 houses down from me that I see when I go on my morning walk. It is painted bright pink. And it makes my morning every day I see it. It is just a happy button that is just so good to see, right? Yeah, its little pop-up headlights are up all the time. Who cares if they're broken? They're up. And, the smiling face is greeting me, because they back it into the driveway. So thank you, random Miata owner, for that. Yeah. No, it's like the fact that like you called out the stuff in the Viper article, because we just had a listener send us this and we've seen it before, like the no airbags, we die like men shit, right? Like
I took that picture in Moab.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Ian, famously not a listener of our show.
I'm not.
Yeah. But like the line that you said, like, that just really resonates, that is that self-destructive behavior is not a cry for help. It is a cry for help. It's not a sign of strength. And I butchered that, and I'm so sorry. But it is so well written and eloquent, and I really appreciate that take on it, because that is how it is. Like, that is the reality behind toxic shit like that. That just we don't need it,
Well, and I was writing this story about the Viper right after engaging that self-destructive behavior of driving up that mountain I shouldn't have. So it was on my mind a lot, because this is right in rapid succession. And so I was thinking about kind of self-destructive behavior. Why do we do it? What do we have to prove? And this car made me feel well balanced, because I thought I had like this chip on my shoulder, a bunch of things to prove. I have nothing compared to the Dodge Viper and the way it handles. So yeah, that was a fun way to put it in perspective, I guess.
I like that. I've only driven one once. I was scared because it was the most vague thing I've ever driven. And yeah, it was very frightening. I was probably driving it at 2/10, and it scared me, and I don't want to go back to there.
And to be clear, it was on an autocross course, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah. So, that's a fantastic article. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. No. So to kind of like hop off to tag onto like the toxic masculinity stuff, we play a game on this show, and we'd like to play it with you. So
okay,
it is a game based on vanity plates.
Okay.
Because we've all seen them. It is a part of automotive culture that can go anywhere from offensive to cringy to funny to, whatever. Like, you'd never want to talk to that person, right? So I'm going to give you a picture of 3 cars with their vanity plates blacked out. And I'll give you the vanity plates on the side, and you see if you can match them to the vehicle that they are.
Okay.
This one is called, I wrote a title for it. No, seriously, dudes with trucks are fine. Mentally, fine. Really, they're fine. Fine. So
this is great. As a Texan, I can definitely do this one.
Oh yeah. Right?
you've seen all three of these people before, even if you've never seen these three people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you've seen them before.
Yes. So if you'd like, while you take in.
No, it's easy. Can you zoom in? Can you zoom in on the back window of that truck in the middle there, the Silverado?
Yeah, I like we're already going in for the context clues. This is a good sign.
Just give me this, and I think I've got it after that. If you can zoom in on that.
Oh, I think it's
a boat. Oh no, it's an air compressor. Okay.
Yep. It's a big air compressor. So you've got a Chevy Silverado, another white Silverado, not as lifted as the first one, and then just a big old dark red maroon Ram truck, power wagon.
All right, definitely like from top to bottom, it's great white, mom's boy, and man truck.
Wow. That was impressive.
You
freaky, right?
Can you talk us through your process? What did you?
Great white is it's too stupidly obvious to be some sort of crypto fash statement because people try to hide it more than that. So it has to just be some idiot who just didn't think through like putting something absurdly close to like white nationalist shit on his
That's where my mind went with it. Yeah.
And so I was just like, and it's big, and that's the kind of thing he'd do that's stupid.
That's what I thought too. Like, it's a big white truck.
Because here's the thing: if Great White had been on the Ram, I would have expected to see a fascist sticker on it.
Sure.
Because that's what I was looking for, on that one down there, and there's no stickers. So that one had to be left, and then. Man truck is absolutely a Dodge Ram owner. There's no the Ram in the same way the Viper is just tapped into the collective id of the American male.
Yeah.
They are literally like. Did you ever watch Home Improvement when it was on?
Oh yeah,
like, the 90s?
Oh, yeah.
And there was just the man grunts that Tim Allen used to do.
Mm-hmm.
Dodge Ram builds trucks for people who still do that. Because they saw it in Home Improvement 20 years ago and think it's funny. So man truck makes sense. Then it leaves mom's boy for the person with the white truck, which like, it's the least stupid. Like mom's boy is just kind of sweet, theoretically. Right. It could also be like really kinky, but we'll not go to that route right now. But it's like, that's a stock Silverado with an air compressor in the bed. That person is clearly not trying to be like, they're not posturing with their truck at the very least. They're using the bed, right? So. Right. That is my thinking.
The last tires they aired up with that compressor were their mother's Camry tires, right? Yeah, it's like Buster Bluth, but in truck form. Yeah, right. Yeah, no. Our buddy Jesse sent us the mom's boy picture that she saw. Yeah, and I had the pleasure of witnessing Great White and Man Truck myself. When we saw Man Truck, my wife let out a disgruntled and upset groan that just like resonated through the neighborhood. Like, yeah, you may have heard it. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. Okay. Well, 10 out of 10, 100%. You nailed the vanity plate game. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very well done.
Yeah, I love it. Like I can just like picture you just like shoving everyone aside. Like, I got this. Boom, boom, boom. Like, shut up, everyone. We just like unlocked a talent that you did not know you had. Like, apparently, Victoria, she's a vanity plate savant. So there you go. Yeah. Well done. Well done. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You can come back, and we do those pretty regularly on the show. Dave invented this game, and I think it's the best because you really have to like dig in to the psyches of the people who own these vehicles, and then who also like pay money to have these things advertised about themselves to the world, which I find mind-boggling.
That's why I've never had a vanity plate. I've had some really good ideas. Like I wanted to do like B20 lewd, or for like my old Prelude, or I wanted to do like what was my Advan? I had an Advan super themed plate. I had thought, Super Ad was the one I wanted to do because it wasn't taken in Texas somehow. So I came up with a bunch, but then I got to the point where I was like, pay the government $80 more a year to do this. And the Texas government hadn't done a whole lot for me lately. So I was like, nah.
Yeah, exactly. You don't get those dollars. Those dollars go elsewhere, right? Yeah.
I'm sorry. I only pay voluntary taxes to functioning governments.
Right. You fix the power grid. Maybe I'll Maybe I'll pay you more.
Yeah, then we can talk.
Right. Hey, I want to start a nonprofit organization that like intervenes people as they go into the DMV that want a vanity plate and like gets them like to the core of their issue and like gets them to redirect it to a charitable cause. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Dave's
you can
catchphrase would be, let's unpack that.
You can spend money on whatever you'd like, but if you're paying, like, that's a $70,000-$80,000 Ram probably.
Oh yeah.
It's a Power Wagon.
Mm-hmm.
To pay to have man truck put on it does really suggest that $80 or whatever would have been better spent on like help.
yeah. I'd like one introspection, please.
Yeah. Or even like a spa day or something,
right?
To like calm the fuck down a little bit.
Cucumbers for your eyes, dude. It's fine. Yeah. Right? No, yeah. Yeah. These people, my favorite conundrum with that is the Texas don't tread on me plate. So you're paying the government more for the plate that says you don't like the government. Like that.
Oh God, that could be a whole other podcast.
Yes,
Texans are very weird about their state government. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Living there, I've lived there for 3.5 years or so. Well, I mean, I've lived there for 3 1/3 years, and I was in my van for the rest of that.
Right.
But Texas is like whole mentality as just like a people and a culture is truly beyond, like, I think most Americans outside of it, kind of just truly beyond their kind of grasp, because nobody goes to like Connecticut and they're like, damn, I got to watch out for these Connecticutians. they're their own independent, strong, proud people. And Texans are totally like that. And it's very different.
Right.
Yeah.
I think exhausting is the word you're looking for.
I was trying to be nice, but
we have a lot. We're in Denver. We have tons of ex-Texans here. Yeah.
Lots
of friends
to live in
from
Oklahoma. I lived in Oklahoma for 8 years. So I interacted with a lot of Texans, and nobody has a bigger chip on their shoulder about Texans than Oklahomans do.
I could believe that.
Yeah. So I've heard it from both sides, and then I left.
The only winning move is to not play.
There you go. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ian, what do you think? What else you want to talk about? Go ahead.
I was going to say, you did mention that there were like specific van stories you wanted to go through. And I don't know if I covered that or not.
Well, no, I think your heroic fix after breaking it.
Yes.
You mentioned breaking it while off road. I did think that your fix that you did was especially like pretty. I don't know if it was inventive or desperate or both, or.
I wasn't a desperate yet, honestly. I've been a desperate a bunch of times in this trip, and that was still like early in the morning. It wasn't even that hot yet.
Okay.
So no, I think at that one I'm just gonna chalk up to like, I had it. It worked. It in this context is a very heavy chain that was originally used to pull engines that has since been repurposed, and a set of leg irons and handcuffs. Because I didn't have any ratchet straps, but I had a suitcase full of kink gear, and that's what happens when you're a single trans woman driving around the U.S. by yourself. Is you're like, damn, I have very interesting and separated from traditional family notions of what love is and what experiences I'd like to have in my life. And then you have handcuffs and leg irons in your suitcase, and suddenly you're trapped on a mountain where the only thing you can use to keep them up is that.
Right. I love the fact that like on Twitter it was basically like, my kink got me out of this. Like,
the line that I used was, so I used the handcuffs to secure the chain. I used the leg irons to keep the front end of the trailing arm off the ground, because the spring wanted to push it down into the dirt.
Right.
And then I used my mirror that I had brought solely for putting on makeup to adjust everything. And so what I said was, lust and vanity saved my ass in KO Peak.
So perfect.
I keep coming back to this, but like, as far as, again, a metaphor for fusing your identity with your car and the journey that you're on. Again, not subtle, but very effective. You literally chained part of your identity to your car to continue your journey.
And I mean, part of it too, like just being super open is like, I have had this notion for so long that I had to be perfectly puritanical in terms of my presentation to be able to have a career and to be a writer and to, just like be accepted. And so like that story was nerve-wracking for me to tell because I was worried that the popular reaction to it would be not positive. It ended up being positive, and it ended up being probably one of my most popular van stories to date, which I think has told me like, you can relax, like you can have human elements to you and nobody's going to be upset about that. So it was like, it was truly the only choice I had to make to get down. And as I was doing it, I was like, this story is going to be interesting, right? And then it worked. And I was like, I can't believe I did it. If I made it down the mountain, then I can write the story. And then that's where it went from there.
Yeah. I can see why you were concerned about wanting to stay puritanical when telling your story, because famously there are no sex metaphors in car journalism ever.
Oh yeah. There's, yeah.
I think you're okay.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think the idea just like, there's not been a ton of trans women doing this, and just like discussing sexuality as a cis woman even is just a minefield because of what it invites and the kind of, there are men who take that as an invitation for things. There are men who think that they can treat you less because of it. And then to do that as a trans woman just like adds another whole level of complexity. Right. And so I was just like, but at the same time, I was like, that's how I fixed the van and got down the mountain. I have to tell people this because it was hilarious.
Right.
So I wrote about it. Now, like, I think I've just made peace with the idea of people knowing me as a complete rounded human instead of a robot.
Well, I think we're all better for it, honestly.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
I mean, it worked. Like, I can't knock it because it got me down.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was once stranded in the mountains because a wire came off of my alternator and I wasn't able to fix it at all. I didn't even know that was the problem. So this is pretty impressive.
I think a lot of it comes down to the Midwest. I think the real reason I fixed it there was like I had enough water and food to last me a week. I had people that knew my location, and that's the thing I said earlier about like my editor cares about me. He's my friend. I'm at his house. Like, there's it's deeper than just like a writer submitting stories. So, they have taken steps to make sure that I, as a person, am safe. So there's no mortal danger to any of this. It's just, there's inconveniences. Like, it would have sucked to have gotten stuck up there, and it would have cost me a lot of money to get down. And deep inside me, the Ohioan that I was raised was like, you're getting this van down for free. And that was why I was like, I'm determined to fix this. It's just because like my cheapness was just overwhelming everything else possible. So
Midwestern motivation driven by thriftiness. Yes.
Absolutely.
Right.
The only way you could have been more Midwestern is if you would interjected in the middle of the story to tell us how much you spent on the handcuffs. I got on sale.
They were like $15. It's not that expensive. I mean, and they're like, as I've joked to my friends since this is like, I only buy trail rated kink gear. I held up the whole way down. They're like legit, like cop spec cuffs. So,
yeah, you need to get a little Rubicon badge for him or something.
Yeah, I'm imagining an entire like line of kink gear that could double as, automotive fixins. Yeah. Yeah.
Toe straps. You got the whole.
I see
I saw a few readers of the story who were like, oh, I got something new to add to the four-wheeler gear now. And I was like, hell yeah. Honestly, like, it's latchable, it's lockable, it's got chain, it's fairly sturdy. It's not a bad idea. So,
right?
Yeah.
If you need a thing to hold a thing, like maybe use a thing that's designed to hold a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like
Okay.
that.
Okay. Yeah.
Dave, what do you think? Should we move on to another game?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
How about you introduce this one, Ian?
Okay, so we play another game on the show. We call it FMK Cars. It's based on the classic game of Fuck, Marry, Kill, except we play it with cars instead of people.
Healthier.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? We always say because we're not gross.
Yeah.
We're not gross. So in this, you're going to get 3 cars. You'll assign FMK. F means you drive it for a day. M means you're going to marry it. It's your new daily driver. And K means you're going to kill it. It goes to the crusher.
Okay.
All right? I like to assign, we like to give little twists with this as well. So we were talking before about, kind of cars being a like how they can kind of be a stabilizing influence and like kind of a through line in the story of our life.
Mm-hmm.
And so this one is called Continuity is King. So this is going to be cars from the front page of Japanese classics right now. So JDM cars.
Okay.
With life-changing twists. So every time you drive this car, your life is going to be in flux in some way, but you're going to have the car.
Okay.
All right. So the first
that's
one.
That's I live in my life currently. I have an arrow back in the highest, so it's a very imaginable game.
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah, I was really going out on a limb with this one. All right. So this one, the first one is a 1995 Nissan Safari Spirit. And Dave will show a picture of it. It looks very cool.
Oh, God, that's cool as hell. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like their little.
What motor's in this? Is this
I
like
believe it's the diesel
platform?
Let's find out. Oh, come on, Dave. You're screwing it up, buddy. Okay. This is the.
There we go. Let's see. 91K miles.
I thought I read that it was the diesel.
Click to read more if you could.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, here it is.
There it is.
Well, I
it's
would take that one too.
It's the straight six. RD28.
It is the turbo diesel 4-cylinder.
That's a Toyota. That's a Toyota. You're
oh my God, I'm on the wrong page.
That's the motor in my car.
There we go.
It's the RD28.
Okay. Straight 6.
Sorry. I forgot that I'm recorded and I'm like staring this close to my screen.
You're fine.
I hope everybody likes my eyes. I put on makeup today.
Okay. So that's
locking hubs. Okay. Yeah, this thing's cool as hell. I could definitely off-road the absolute shit out of that.
And most importantly, two-tone. It's two-tone.
Yes.
Very cool.
That is not a dissimilar scheme from what my aero deck is getting painted in, actually.
Oh,
a little different than that, but that's new info. It's dropping on.
Whoa, exclusive.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Oh my God, I can't wait to see that. I love your aero deck so much. Okay, go on, Ian. Go with your game.
The twist with this one is at the beginning of every journey, you quit your job and you have a new one by the end.
I mean, that's basically what this journey's been. So
Right. But I would say like more like career, like you're going to change.
I just did that. No, I mean, I wasn't. I was a software engineer like 5 months ago.
That's true.
So
okay.
Writing is a new full-time thing to me. So like the last time I did that, my life worked out better. So I have to drive this. So every single time I drive it, I have to change careers. Like, what if I go to the grocery store?
Yeah. Maybe you're
that one. Okay, that's a little.
It's a lot.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. Okay.
I like writing. I don't know if I can change again after this.
All right. Well, then let's go on to the next one. Let's try the next one.
Okay.
The next one is a 1992 Hilux Surf SSR-X.
Oh wow.
This is another chunky JDM.
Oh, you want to hear? You want to hear a real thing that nobody else has heard yet? I am currently working on trying to get to drive one of these.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Hilux Surf.
So, nice.
No promises, but there might be a story about this. Okay, what's the weird life shit with this? Because I really want it.
Cutting to the core. I love it.
No, seriously. These are fantastic trucks.
All right. Before starting any trip, you must put as many of your personal belongings in the car as possible.
Okay, well,
you're basically going to be moving. It's essentially what you're doing now.
Yeah, that's easy.
I would imagine your car Tetris game is just on point.
I'm gonna add to this. I'm gonna go on the fly and I'm gonna add to this the Russian shuttle model has to be ratchet strapped to the top of the.
Oh, yeah, that's doable. I was actually planning at some point, if I can ever like have a home again, more permanent than my van, I want to take the Buron to Radwood, and I would really like to tow it in on a trailer behind my van, because that'd be cool as shit. Like,
yeah, I want to find everyone that, like, all the little kids like that see it on the way to Radwood, like see that in transport, and talk to them like 20 years later to hear the story that they had. Yeah.
Okay, so this one's cool as hell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Liking this.
Okay, so you've got personal belongings with that one. Okay.
Personal belongings, yep. So the last one, 1990 Nissan Skyline GTS-T. This is the sedan.
4 or 2-door? Oh, ooh, okay.
It's the sedan. You must begin.
Wait, that's a coupe, isn't it?
No, it's a sedan.
I think it's the
4-door.
Nice.
Yep, boom. Okay, cool. All right, yeah.
It's just a very good looking 4-door
sedan.
sedan.
No, I love these.
Right.
The taillights on them are just absolute fire too.
I know. And for some reason, I just love that fucking rear wiper. It's like,
oh, it's so good. Rear wipers are just God's gift to sedans. We should have gotten more of them. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, why don't we have them on all our sedans? Yeah.
You must begin one new friendship each time you drive this car. So you need to meet and befriend a person every time you drive this car, which, to be fair, might not be that difficult.
Oh God, yeah, no, that's like my idea of heaven. I love meeting new people. I have made so many friends on this trip.
I would crush that immediately.
Just purely on a car basis, I would pick this one. Or purely on a life status basis, I would daily drive this.
Okay.
And I would take one trip in the Hilux because I could totally pack all my stuff up and make the trip count. And then the whole career thing, like, I already did the career switch. I don't want to do it again. As much as I like the Nissan Safari, I don't like. I found what I was supposed to do. I feel like writing was this scary thing that I was going to quit my career to go do, and now I don't want to stop. So I would have to crush it. Although I would prefer to not, because it's cool. On a car basis, like if you strip away the other things, my order ends up almost the same. Actually, no, it does end up the same, because these as daily drivers are just phenomenal. Like, this is what, an RB20? And this one, the T is an RB25. Because if it's a 25...
AC blows
RB20,
cold.
okay.
Yep, RB20.
RB20. They sound good. They're not like super modifiable or anything, but there's been so many of these imported to the US. You can actually kind of get parts now. Mm-hmm. There's cool kits. They ride comfy. They're just like sedans, you know? Yeah. So these are great dailies. And I would love to go on a camping trip in a Hilux, because I can fold down the seats. I can make a bed in it. I can do my normal car camping thing. And the Patrol Safari is so cool, but I see its use as being limited for me because it's so short. Like, I don't do a lot of I did this over the weekend. I went off-roading with Stephen Ewing from CNET's car show? Oh my God. He's going to make fun of me if he listens to this. But anyway, I hang out with him, and he had a Defender 90, and we went off-roading and had a short wheelbase like this. And it was super cool, but like, you do that like so rarely. I would so much rather take a road trip and just do like chill off-road stuff than the kind of thing that requires this really short wheelbase, but I can't sleep in. So Gotcha. That's my reasoning for both.
No, I'm into it. I think you made the right choice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Dave, what would you do?
I mean, bucket list car for me is a Skyline, period, right? Like, I mean, like 33, 34, like that's, you know, I'm putting all the pennies in the piggy bank for that, you know, like someday, right? And my plan is when the like really good 33s and the 34s start to make a boom and they hit really high prices with the demand, I'm going to be the guy that swoops in like 7 years later when they need a bunch of service, and I'm gonna buy the ratty one that has a bunch of rust, just like I did with my Vegan, and I'm gonna have it. I'm gonna enjoy it for, you know, the last of its days. It's basically like when you adopt like a 12-year-old pug, right? Like that's what I want to do with the JDM vehicle.
Dave, what you're describing is automotive hospice care.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah, that's me. I want to be the caretaker. It's gonna burp and fart and snort, and
It's gonna
that's
make you
perfectly fine.
comfortable.
Yep, that's right. I'm gonna feed it cake every day.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
Pouring in little STP fuel additives, like they're there. It's okay.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Oh, you're 1 psi down on your tire. Okay, we'll fix that, buddy.
Like I have a cat who's like 17 years old, and I've started buying him these Rachel Ray food packets. They're just gravy, so he can just lick them. I mean, they're fucking disgusting, but yeah, same thing. Yes.
Yep.
So
You gotta spoil the boy.
If my cat was a rusty sob, that's exactly what it would be.
Yeah, no, Victoria, I think you picked completely right. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Thanks. I mean,
Yeah.
those are so cool. The greatest. So a lot of people are like, Victoria, do you miss your Supra? And the answer is kind of yes. It was a cool car, and every time I get the chance to drive one, I'm like, hell yeah. But the car I miss the most, the car that my automotive heart aches for, is my '94 Toyota pickup.
Okay.
So it was a 22 RE, 5-speed manual, 4-wheel drive, locking hub, second stick shift, in the cab. It had cloth seats, and new for '94 was they added door bars for side impacts and a third taillight they screwed into the roof because they just required them in '94. Short cab, short bed.
Okay.
It moved me out of my parents' house, which was a very, very, very transformative time in my life.
Sure.
And I ended up selling it because it needed a timing chain and I couldn't do it by myself because I didn't know how. And I will always miss the thing. It was like that. You see that red one there? Oh, scroll up a little bit.
This guy.
That one right there. That was mine, except it was black.
Okay.
Perfect. Mine had a lot of rust, but it had the same wheels, had the same tires, and my God, it just was so cool. Like it never let me down. Never had a single mechanical problem. I didn't own it for all that long, maybe 6 months. But it got me hundreds of miles away when I needed to take trips. It kept me warm in the winters. Had windows, so it kept me cool enough in the summers.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it moved me out of my parents' house, which was like that was what started me on the path to where I am now. It's just like I need that independence, and it provided it for me. So
that's perfect.
Fucking love those. I could never hurt one.
Right.
You could be like, I will hold a gun to your head if you don't crush this, and I might pull the trigger, and I'd be like, I still can't do it. I'm sorry.
I'm originally from Missouri. When you turn 16 years old there, they issue you a pickup truck. Mine was a 1988 Nissan before they had names, the hard body pickup truck.
Yes.
And then my second car was a 1994 Nissan pickup truck. Same thing, cloth interior. I had the king cab, but my first one was short bed, short cab, all vinyl interior. Like the simplicity of that vehicle is something that I still miss like so much today, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, and just like the thing about Toyotas, I feel like that people neglect to mention is that a Toyota will run like shit forever. They're good cars, but my God, like if I had just left the cuffs on Marsha and just ignored it, I could have driven highways the whole rest of the trip without even noticing. Yeah. Like the alternator, I probably could have hit with a hammer 3 times and gotten another 5,000 miles out of it. Like there's no reason they use these things as technicals in the Middle East. Sure, my pickup truck sounded like some sort of like wrestling match with the amount of timing chain slap it had, but it would keep going for another 50,000 miles like that, and it wouldn't complain. You just gave it more oil to shut it up. And that's the thing that I miss about that is like knowing that, shit, something's broken on the truck. Oh, well, I got to drive 300 miles. I'll do it later. Like that feeling is unparalleled.
Right. Unfortunately, everyone else knows that too. So like the values of used Toyota pickup trucks are like, I mean, we should just go to that instead of the gold standard. Just like base our currency off of that, and it would be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, Victoria, this was a fantastic show. I
think we did a car show.
Yeah. Yeah. We're a Russian space podcast now. Yep.
I mean, it's funny you mentioned that because the last podcast I was on literally as a guest, we talked about the Tupolev Tu-144. That was like the plot of the episode. That was why they brought me in. It was a show about supersonic airplanes. And I literally talked about the Tupolev pretty much the whole time I was on there. Which is another failed Soviet engineering project that is a ripoff / improvement / worsening of the Western version that I am just indescribably fascinated with.
Is that the what's the Soviet one that was the amphibious?
The Chronoplon?
Yes.
No, that's different. That wasn't a plane. That was like a boat.
Right, that like skimmed the water.
Yeah, it was like a hovercraft-ish thing. Right. I mean, there's a name for it, and I forget what it is. I don't know a ton about chronoplons because they're cool, but like I read a bunch of stories about them, and they're definitely like an explored territory, and I want to go into the weird stuff.
Gotcha. There we go.
Because it's fun, like why not?
Right?
Yeah. That's the same reason that when I see a mountain that I can't find any like information on the trail on, I drive up it.
Makes sense.
Nice. Well,
if people want to find your writings or you on the social medias or anything else, where should they go? What should they do?
My Twitter is where I'm definitely the most active and where I try to actually respond and keep up with things. That's at Mikuru Beyahina. So Mikuru as in Mikuru Asahina, the anime character from The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. Bay as in the outdated 2012 internet slang, and Hina is in the last part of Mikuru Asahina's last name. So that's my Twitter, and then I'm on the Drive. You can read my articles under the Van Continental Express, and I also do other series for them as well. And I freelance with Jalopnik and Motor One and Car Bibles and Hemmings occasionally and other sites as well. I think I've got a new article running with a new site this week, actually. I reviewed the VW Arteon. So that should be out fairly soon.
Nice. Yeah. That's fantastic. Well,
thank you.
Everyone listening, please go follow Victoria Scott. Read all of her stuff. Look at all of her pictures. We haven't even touched on how fucking mind-blowingly good of a photographer you are. So we're going to have to save that for another show because that's just a whole nother thing. Yeah. Thank you. So multi-hyphenate. Yeah. Victoria Scott. Yeah. But so please go follow her on all the things. Follow us on Apex Adjacent on Twitter. If you see a weirdo with a vanity plate and you want to text it to us, 720-515-1391 for our crisis line. And so there you go. Anything else, Ian?
No, I don't think so. I think just thank you, Victoria. This was great. And
no, thank you so much. It was really fun. I enjoyed it, and I appreciate you letting me talk about my stories. It means a lot to me.
Absolutely.
Well, good. You're on every month now, so I'm glad you
Do not make me edit my own voice, and I just might be like, all right, fine. Literally, I cannot. It is so hard for me to listen to myself on podcasts because I'm just like,
yeah,
I don't care for it either, which is why I never listen to this show.
And I'm completely numb to it by now. But also, we should mention if you're ever coming to Colorado and you want to go, I don't know, do a whole bunch of go-karting, please let us know. Yeah. Because we can make all that happen in Denver for you.
Yeah. Colorado is likely. I wouldn't say it's definite because the plan is to get to Seattle essentially.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
It's a winding route after I escape Los Angeles finally. And then over to Idaho to see my friend Brian Dubois, who's a photographer and just general great guy. So I'm going to go hang out with him in Idaho. And then from there, I can go wherever I'd like. I have to get back to Houston eventually. But Colorado, Utah, Montana, I mean, I don't know.
Awesome. Nice. There's a lot of adventure out there.
I have a van. I got plenty of time.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you again, everybody else. We love you. Goodbye.